Shalom, everybody. Welcome to our album release for Refuge. I'm Cantor David Berger. I'm the great-grandson of 8 immigrants and refugees who came to this country from Poland and Russia, some fleeing anti-Semitism or war, some coming to seek opportunity. In America, they found refuge.
Hello. Welcome to this celebration of the release of our new CD, Refuge, art songs by Jewish American refugee composers. I am Joyce Rosenzweig, the pianist on the CD, and a grandchild of refugees who immigrated to the United States from Poland, Russia, and Ukraine.
I'm so excited to celebrate with you today this release of Refuge, art songs by American Jewish refugee composers. Before we go too much further, I want to offer my gratitude. Joyce and I depended along this way on so many of you. Some for your gifts of financial support that allowed us to work as hard as we could to create this album. Some for advice along the way about repertoire or sound or approaches for helping with vocal work or who knows what. Some for sitting at the boards and actually recording the sounds and mixing and mastering. We have depended on so many to help us reach this day.
We have so much gratitude to the many people who have helped us reach this day. As we have all witnessed the crisis of refugees at our own borders and throughout the world, David and I wondered how we as musicians could respond. As we delved into our own people's experience, we realized that Jews have always been refugees, forced to move from place to place throughout history.
We wondered all those years ago, how could we as musicians contribute somehow? How could we do our part in this crisis? And at that point, we thought of our own people's experience. Jews have always been wanderers. And we thought of the many composers and artists who came to this country as refugees with nothing.
We began to think about the many artists and composers who, after fleeing their homes, sought refuge in America, ultimately contributing so much to the American Jewish cultural scene and to the larger world of culture, learning, and artistic expression.
And who made contributions not only to our Jewish community, but to the entire world of culture, of learning, of art, of music.
There is a tremendous breadth and diversity of music on the CD, with 4 languages and 9 phenomenal composers represented.
Hebrew, English, Yiddish, and Ladino, a variety of musical styles, and more composers than we could possibly present today. And I want to draw your attention especially to our album liner notes.
We are in love with each piece and feel certain that these compositions are not only extraordinary as just Jewish music,
and we believe passionately that this music not only deserves recognition for its place in the story of American Jewish music, but also this music deserves its place in the canon of American art song.
The opening selection on the CD is Apostachla Troimer, the Dreaming Shepherd. The song begins as a serene shepherd song in Ukrainian Dorian mode. But right away, we notice that the shepherd has fallen asleep, allowing his flock to be attacked by wolves. As the shepherd continues to sleep, the sheep are devoured and eaten alive. When the shepherd finally awakens, all that is left of his flock is bones. The poet Zisha Weinper admonishes and curses this shepherd. this shepherd with a staff that does not protect his flock. Written in 1933, it seems likely that these words were a premonition of the horrors that were to overtake Europe in the coming decade. The composer of this song, Cantor Jacob Rappaport, was born in 1890 in Bessarabia. Faced with anti-Semitic violence and discrimination throughout Eastern Europe, Rappaport sought opportunity and freedom in the United States in 1910. His artful and beautifully moving settings of cantorial recitatives are renowned as some of the greatest gems of traditional chazanut, or cantorial singing. The arranger of this song, Alexander Olshanetsky, was born in 1892 in Odessa, Ukraine, emigrating to America in 1922, where he became one of the most important and prolific composers of music for the Yiddish theater. His prominence and fame allowed him to save his very own family from Nazi oppression in Europe by bringing them to America in 1937.
Zum Himmel gucken, hoben sich von hinter Bäumer, Welf genommen Rogen. Oben ziegelig gemäcket, oben schäpselig gebäcket, und dem Pass doch mit den Stöcken nicht gekonnt erwecken. Wenn das Pastichel der Träumer hat zum Himmel sich verkauft, haben Welt von hinter Bäumer Scherete verzogt, haben siegelig gemäcket, haben schäpselig gebäcket, und dem Pass doch mit den Stöcken nicht gekonnt erwecken. Wenn das Pastichel der Träume hat ihm sich schon geklieben seinen unter alle Bäume. Bändlach bloß geblieben. Keiner hat schon nicht gemerkt. Keiner hat schon nicht geböckert. verstecken, mögt die entverdecken.
It gives me great pleasure now to introduce Rabbi Sharon Kleinbaum, Senior Rabbi of Congregation Beit Simchat Torah in New York City, and one of the most important voices for social justice in the world today. We invite you to share a few words with us. Thank you.
I am thrilled to be here to celebrate the release of this really important historic CD, observing the contributions of Jewish composers, refugees, who understand so deeply what the experience of being a wanderer is about. We know as American Jews the significance of supporting, loving, embracing, helping in every possible way those who are refugees. As HIAS is fond of saying, we used to help refugees because the refugees were Jewish. Now we help refugees because we are Jewish. In 1924, quotas were placed in law here in these United States that limited immigration from the countries in which Jews were most numerous, Eastern Europe and in Italy. Those laws were designed exactly to limit people who were seen as political, as being progressive radicals who would threaten the American system. We were seen as other. Between 1881 and 1924, when those laws were enacted, most of our ancestors, those of us who are Ashkenazic American Jews, came to these shores. All four of my grandparents came in that period. And I know that's true for most American Jews who are of Ashkenazic descent. In those years from 1881 to 1924, Jews fled from Eastern Europe. The pogroms, the economic deprivation, the political persecution, and the limited access to institutions in full and a complete way forced Jews to flee. That migration brought millions of Jews out of Eastern Europe to other places of the world: England, Palestine, the United States, South America. But the Jews who came here to the United States formed what was the largest immigration of Jews up until that point. Before 1881 here in America, we had a much smaller Jewish population that was primarily German Jews from the 1840s, and before that, Sephardic Jews, Spanish, Portuguese Jews. But in 1924, the doors were closed. Very, very, very few Jews could get into the United States from 1924 until well after World War II and the Holocaust, which decimated our people. Yes, Hitler and the genocidal, heinous policies of Nazism killed millions of Jews, 6 million Jews, and so many others as well. But it was the inability of people to get out of Europe and a place to come to that sealed the deal for Hitler. And he knew it. Had America opened its doors from 1939 to 1945, for sure the numbers of Jews and others who were killed would have been diminished significantly. This is a piece of the story about the refugee crisis we must focus on. While there are evil people and players in the world who are doing things to harm, to kill, to destroy communities, it is those of us who are in countries which could be havens in which we must open our doors. This CD that Joyce, Rosenzweig, and David Berger have created is a profound, profound testament to all that can be contributed through the world of art. And not only that, but it creates a deep experience of those who are refugees themselves and the contributions that they have to make, and how the world is thinner, is paler, has less to it without these great artists and what they have to say. Rabbi Joachim Prinz, one of the great rabbis of the 20th century, he himself was a refugee. He had been a rabbi in Berlin in the 1930s, and he got to these shores of the United States as a refugee. He was a rabbi at a very famous synagogue in Newark, New Jersey for many, many, many years, and he became very active in the civil rights movement. He said, how could I, as a refugee who knows what hate is, not lift all of my being to help those who are at risk? So to paraphrase Rabbi Prinz, I want to say that we as Jews understand our obligation to help the refugee based in two fundamentals of our experience. One is our historical experience. We have been refugees. We have fled persecution, economic distress, hunger, poverty, and discrimination and genocide, violence and hate. So from our personal experience, we know that we must protect the stranger as the Torah tells us to do. Because the second obligation we have, one from history and our own personal experience, but the second is theological. God demands it of us. Protect the stranger because you know what it's like. So based on these two pillars of understanding our place in the world, has to be one which stands with and works for and does everything to help those who are fleeing what has been their home, and our obligation to open our tents as wide as possible is celebrated in the music of this fantastic CD. I am so grateful to Cantor David Berger and to Joyce Rosenzweig, both of whom I've had the honor and privilege of working with to create prayer space and beauty and art in the world. I'm grateful to both of them for creating this great, great CD and collection of music. It will be one that I will personally treasure for a long time to come. And I'm grateful to them and to all of you for standing with the refugees of our world. Thank you.
There are many moments in which we as individuals and communities struggle as we grapple with the pain and devastation of our world. This year has been no different. Our hearts have broken seeing people whose lives are in danger being turned away at border crossings around the world. Those fleeing Afghanistan, Venezuela, Haiti, Ethiopia, and most recently Ukraine are in danger for the simple fact of who they are. In spite of all this, here at HIAS, our hearts have also swelled at the massive global effort in response to these tragedies. The challenges our new neighbors face today as they settle into new homes and new communities remind us of our own stories of displacement. There are few projects that embody this more perfectly than this Refuge album being released today. Bringing together this compilation of songs composed by Jewish American refugees, together with the works and story of Afghan composer Milad Yousufi, we can see clearly how these are not separate stories of displacement, but rather a continuation of the same story. So often, refugees are classified not by who they are or what they achieve, but by the singular label, refugee. We've seen it in the past through the experiences of Jewish refugees, and we witness it today in the lives of refugees from across the world. By highlighting these musical compositions created by those who were forcibly displaced from their homes, Refuge shows a counter-narrative of art and creativity.
Thank you to Cantor, David Berger, and Joyce Rosenzweig, and to all those who contributed to this project. We are so glad to include this launch as part of Refuge Shabbat 2022 and are grateful for your partnership in standing together with refugees and asylum seekers.
Hello everyone, my name is Milad Yousufi. I'm a pianist, composer, and visual artist. I came to the US in 2015 for the second time and applied for political asylum due to what was going on in Afghanistan at that time. I had the privilege to live with 5 wonderful Jewish families here in Brooklyn, New York since then. And I feel also very privileged to be part of this wonderful album called Refuge, art songs by Jewish American refugee composers. As a refugee myself, I think it's very important when we open our homes to other refugees and contribute to the refugee world, especially at this time, considering what's going on in Afghanistan and Ukraine and other places. And I hope you enjoyed this wonderful album, Refuge. Thank you very much. I'm 24 years old and I'm from Afghanistan. I was a well-known artist back home, and as an artist I used to travel a lot. The third time when I came here, it was 2015 for a summer camp for 30 days. And unfortunately I couldn't go back because of the security reasons, and I applied for political asylum here in the United States. The day that I wanted to stay, I had like a backpack and a couple of $100 in my pocket, and then I barely knew a couple of people. But in order to survive, I had to stay. When I was 2 years old, music was banned in Afghanistan. I had access to music when I was 13 years old, when the Taliban left the capital. And I had my first teacher when I was 15, so I would say until later on I didn't have access to an instrument. But the art and calligraphy was the only way for me to cope with and sort of get help. I grew up during the war, the Civil War and famine as well. As a child, I was very sensitive because I started art when I was 2 years old. I was growing up in a sense of anxiety and depression, and I was expressing it through my art. I used to draw like a sad face on a piece of paper and then show it to my mom and my dad. So I drew piano on a piece of paper and pretend to play. That was my favorite entertainment at that time. Satisfaction to me, and through art and music I can express more. When I paint, I try to paint the beauty of my country, the truth. When I compose, I try to do something that represents my culture and my history. That's a big thing. I couldn't have done it if I was someone else. As a refugee, I'm a wanderer. I don't know where I end up next. Especially my teacher told me that I have to sort of think of it as a 4 years journey of growth and play with passion and love. So the purpose of composing the piece was that I wanted the deans to sort of be more generous to the next generation of refugees that they will give a scholarship to, because it's very rare at Man. They give one scholarship in every 3 or 4 years. And I was very fortunate to be that guy who got the scholarship. From the beginning to the end, every piece that I played, Bach, Mozart, Schubert, and my own piece was, I had my family in front of my eyes, my friends who have been killed and everything.
What a moving story to hear about a composer today working to make his art represent his people and to contribute to today's world of music. You know, as Jews, as our people have traveled from place to place and home to home, constantly forced to move and think, what do we take with us? We have always brought with us our most sacred and precious traditions, our Bible, our classic texts of Judaism, even our food. We have brought with us these special, precious pieces of our heritage because they are core to how we center ourselves in the new homes that we find along the way. Perhaps no singular text has stood as central to Jewish coping and adjustment and faith throughout these years than the book of Psalms. Classic compilation of poetry that fits moments of celebration and moments of sorrow. And of all 150 Psalms, the 23rd Psalm has a special place of holiness and of comfort. We feature here the incredible setting of this psalm by Gershon Kingsley. Kingsley was born in Germany and ended up coming to America by way of Israel, like so many other composers fleeing Nazi oppression in Germany. And in America, he truly made a unique contribution to our American music by his early adoption of electronic music. He was one of the first composers to fully take advantage of the Moog synthesizer. His most popular song, Popcorn, became not only a hit in that it expanded the realms of electronic music, but also a popular hit in the world of pop music and has been redone and redone and redone in dance mixes and all kinds of things. It is not as a Jewish liturgical composer that he found his greatest fame. But here, in setting this sacred text, Psalm 23, Kingsley finds a special American idiom, a song of purity, of simplicity, expressing exactly what it is to carry with you your sacred memory, your sacred text, and to live in your new home of refuge. The Lord is my shepherd, 23rd Psalm.
My shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever, forever, in the house of the Lord forever, forever, forever. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want, I shall not want, I shall not want.
At this time, I'd like to introduce Martin Nagorny, head producer for our Cantus Music, the select German classical label that David and I are so grateful to be working with. We've loved working with this entire amazing team and are grateful they took a chance on us. We are Arcantus's first album of Jewish music.
Hi Joyce, hi David. Thanks for inviting me, at least virtually, to the release show for the new CD with the title Refuge on our label Arcantus. My name is Martin Nagorny, and together with my colleague Fabian Frank, I run this label as executive producers. Before becoming a record producer, I used to play the violin, and I was playing for quite a while in a string quartet, which we named after Gideon Klein. Gideon Klein was one of the Theresienstadt composers, and I always was fascinated how he was able, on one hand, to represent the terrible times he was living in his compositions. On the other, he always has a sense of beauty and a sense of hope, also in his music, and yeah, that was very touching to me whenever I was playing his music. So that was the association which came up when you, Joyce and David, sent the program of USCD to us, and I thought, yes, we should release that. It's a very, very nice idea and very, very beautiful collection of compositions. Of course, when we were planning this, no one of us was expecting how much the program and the title would reflect current developments. I'm talking to you from Berlin, and we already have the first refugees from Ukraine coming here, and yeah, it's terrible and unthinkable conditions which we hear from Ukraine. So it's yeah, we put on the cover of the CD, we put the Statue of Liberty So may the light of this statue also shine for all refugees suffering from any war on the world. To you, Joyce and David, thanks again for this recording and for sharing this beautiful music with us. And let's hope that you have many concerts in real very soon as well. Yeah, thanks again.
I want to thank everyone for joining us today as we release Refuge out into the world. And it's fitting that we end here, this space where I stand now, the glorious sanctuary of KAM Isaiah Israel Congregation in Chicago. In this room, our rabbis challenged us to be warriors for social justice, to fight for equality for all. In this room, from the choir loft just up there, Max Janowski composed hundreds of melodies that came to define a special sound for American Reform Judaism, a sound that is still heard in congregations around the world to this day. You know, Janowski, like so many other of our composers we've mentioned today, grew up in Berlin and was lucky to find a position as he was trying to flee Nazi persecution, teaching piano in Tokyo. So off he went with his father to Japan, where he stayed for some time, eventually coming to New York City, and then to our great benefit, coming to this congregation. I honor his legacy and his tradition every day in my work, trying to do as he did, to preserve and expand the world of Jewish traditional music by creating new and wonderful music that advances somehow the soundscape of what it is to be Jewish here in America. This prayer for peace, this Oseh Shalom, you might hear some of Max's French influences, his great love for Debussy and Ravel, a masterful work of meditation, combining that traditional cantorial sound with the harmonies of the greatest of European composition. We tie this Oseh Shalom together with Irving Berlin's incredible setting of the words of Emma Lazarus, the new Colossus. Irving Berlin, born Izzy Balin, came to America with his family as a very young boy. Found success first within the Jewish community, writing humorous songs that sort of poked fun at what it was to be a Jewish immigrant on the Lower East Side, but soon came to be the father of American song. We celebrate this amazing refugee, this incredible immigrant who gave so much to our country. And we are reminded through this melody and through the words of Emma Lazarus of our mission. We work together with HIAS, who are working at this very moment to help those in Ukraine who are fleeing the war breaking out. We join together with HIAS in Emma Lazarus's proclamation, "Give me your tired, your poor." We see the huddled masses. We feel them yearning to breathe free. I lift my lamp beside the golden door, says Lazarus. Together, through music, through activism, yes, sometimes through money, through all of the resources we have at our disposal, together we work to help those refugees around this world find home, find
shelter, find refuge. Thank you for being with us today.
To breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless tempest tossed, to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. Give me your time. tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden Tapastechul aträumen, lieb gehabt zum Himmel, gucken